Hello everyone, and it's been a while since I recorded my last video, but with all the ChatGPT hype, I decided to actually record a couple lessons. The first lesson is about using English, and it's going to talk about how to utilize ChatGPT to help developers expedite the app development on iOS platforms. The second video will be actually the same thing, but in Arabic for the Arabic speaking audience. So what do we do here? Typically, you have a description of an application that you want to create with minimum functionality. Obviously, as you dig deeper, you will get a lot more details, and this description will not be sufficient enough. So to help ChatGPT to help come up with a solution that helped me develop my app, you need to give enough information in the description so it knows what to suggest for you. So I came up with this idea where just a simple app with fairly complex topics in Swift. I want to be able to save user information locally. I want to be able to save information about sites or attractions that people visit on their vacations. I need to be able to list them, and I need to be able to add or delete any attractions or point of interest. So I give this description to ChatGPT, and then the next thing I do is just hit enter and see what it comes up with. Now on the outs, it actually give you a disclaimer. It says, this is a language model. I can't give you everything you want, but I will try to help you as much as possible. So it gave me kind of like I don't want to say an algorithms, like a task list of what need to be done. So give me the functionality, user registration and login. That should allow the user to register and log in using their ID, social media, an account like Google. Now, I didn't want to do that. I just want to see if it actually knows what I'm talking about. So I actually wanted to save it locally. So in the example later on, I'll show you what I mean in a bit. So, but it gave me kind of like a roadmap of what do I need to do in my application. So it talks about user profile. It talks about the view user attractions. So I can just use this roadmap to do my application. All right, let's test it a little bit more and see how it can help further. Now, as I said, as a developer, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm looking for. So I just want to take the first part of this application or this suggestion. What can it do for me to create the Swift code, if you will? So if I want to save information about user, I need to be able to save them. I need to be able to create maybe a model that represent the information. I need to be able to save it. I chose to save it locally in user default. So I'm going to say, I want you to create for me to ChatGPT the structure that's going to represent the user information. So I already done that. So I'm just going to come in here and paste it. Not this one. Give me a minute. And then I'll explain what I'm doing here. So now as I said, this is not for beginners. I know I wanted ChatGPT to help me as a developer. So I know what I'm looking for. So I said, okay, I want you to create for me a Swift structure that contains the following information: user name, user phone, and user email. The structure need to adhere to codable protocol. Why is that? Because I wanted to be able to save this information either locally or on the cloud. So let's see what happens after it does that, after providing this information. Now, it's actually very helpful. It gave me the structure, and then when we talk about codable, if you know what you're talking, if you're a Swift developer, you know what that means. It gave me the structure that represent that piece of information or the user details, and it gave me more. And I'll explain these in a minute. So I can take this code now and include it in Xcode, and I already have a structure that represent that. Yes, there are other tools, there are rapid tools that does that for you, but we're not talking about that. We're talking only how to help people that using Xcode to develop mobile apps, for native apps for iOS faster using ChaptGPT. So now I got my structure that represent the user information. Not only that, it shows me how, because I said it is codable, it shows me how to encode the data. So here's how I create the structure. This is how I encode it. And now I got my JSON data. And you can decode it. This is how you decode it. So it gave me the code that helped me quite a bit in how to create a structure, how to encode JSON data, how to decode JSON data. So this is great. I can learn from it. It's giving me even explanation. But again, if you don't know what you're doing, and there's a simple mistake, and it happened with me a couple of times, then you're lost. So the focus here is more on how, not how, but why things are happening. And then you need to have a full comprehension of what is going on in order really to utilize the strength of ChaptGPT. Good, so this is the first step. I know how I created the model, if you will. Now let's see if I actually create the screen. So I'm gonna ask ChaptGPT more. Another question, say I wanted to write a view, write a screen. I didn't specify it's a view or not. I wanted to, actually I left it vague to see what it comes back with. But using SwiftUI. Now, if you could have said UI kit, and then you will get a different answer. So now let's see what happens. If you hit enter, and it is based on the structure that I created above. So yes, so now it has the user, it has the, okay, now this one, fine, but okay, we are not talking about persistent, but it gave me a view, at least. This view, it has the user structure, and it actually put them in a text fields for me in the view. So this would be a basic view that I can take and paste in my Xcode, and then I can use it in my app while I'm developing my app. Now, obviously, ChatGPT is not going to give you the user experience that you want or expect. So there is a lot of work that need to be done in making sure your UX and UI are actually up to standard, competitive, and this is where a lot of the creativity comes in with app development. All right, so what else can I do? Okay, and it'll give you an explanation actually of what these parts, each part of the Swift view is. But again, if you don't know what you're doing, and then there is a little mistake anywhere in here, then you are really out of luck, and then it becomes really hard. Now, I didn't like this example here, and the one that I've tried, and it generated different solutions, and the one that I like, it gave me a better at least design. And this one is basic, very basic. All right, so let me add a little bit more functionality to this. I said, okay, now I have my screen, fine, I got my structure. Now I want to be able to save it locally. And then here, because I know what I'm doing, I said I wanted to be able to save it in the user default. Now you could have said anything you want on the cloud or anything, but I want to see what it can do if I provided specific questions. So now if I hit enter, it will take this view that created earlier for me, it will amend it, and it will add a button with a functionality to take, remember that JSON encoder, it encoded the data for me, and then it will actually write it to the user default. And then with explanation as well. So now, as I said, you can take this stuff and use it in your application. So You can see why the big hype about ChaptGPT. Yes, it can help you quite a bit, but if you don't know what you are doing and you don't know what to ask, then you are really out of luck, just to use good words. Now, I wanted to be able to to test it a little bit more. What I wanted to do, I wanted to say, okay, what if the user details are already stored in the already stored in this in the user default? So I'm gonna add another, extend the other functionality. It says add onload. Okay, onload. It doesn't even know what is onload, but in Swift UI there is something, you know, on appear, for example, instead of onload. Let's see if it actually can figure it out. So what happens here if I hit enter? Now it's gonna modify the above example as well, and it will decode the JSON data. On the button save, it will encode it, and then the other part, the on appear, will decode it. And again, now you have actually pretty good starting point to take this example and then create a screen with information where you can enter the username and the password and the emails, and then actually save them in the user default. All right. Now here, if you know Swift UI, you know, this, you know, it does put the state variable here, so you're okay. And it does give you the option, you know, it's handling all the everything that you need to know about JSON in terms of encoding it and decoding it. So that's why you can see how the big hype about ChaptGPT, and don't know what's going to happen in the future. Yes, it cannot, like it says in the beginning, it cannot completely develop an app for you, but I can, you know, I can see what I can use this as a developer. I can see it where I can use it as a student or somebody, or as a teacher, to help student understand some of these complex topics, and to be able to look at a code and try to understand it and modify it into their systems. Now, obviously, a solid understanding of the Swift language is a must here, because, as I said, if you don't know what you're doing, this will be all foreign language, right? And I was thinking, I do certification for students in Swift, and I say, well, the question is, do they need certification? Definitely, they need certification for this kind of stuff, or at least for the Swift part. The reason is that if you don't have a solid understanding of the Swift language, you can't do anything with this stuff here. All right, that was a quick look on how to utilize ChaptGPT to speed up the development of iOS applications using Swift UI. With that, I'll see you in the next video.